The knock came at 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember the exact time because I just looked at my phone to check when the pizza I ordered would arrive. I was expecting pepperoni and mushroom. What I got instead changed my entire life. I opened the door to find a young woman standing on my porch. She had dark curly hair, pulled back in a ponytail, green eyes that looked familiar in a way I couldn't place, and she was holding a manila envelope against her chest like a shield. "Are you Jennifer Walsh?" she asked. Yes," I said, confused. Can I help you?" She took a deep breath. "My name is Lily. Lily Morrison. I was born on March 15th, 2004 at St. Mary's Hospital in Chicago. And according to my adoption records, you're my birth mother." The world tilted. I grabbed the door frame to steady myself. March 15th, 2004. The worst day of my life. The day my husband Michael told me our baby girl had died during childbirth. The day I'd been sedated because I was hysterical with grief. The day my daughter was supposedly taken away for burial before I ever got to hold her. "That's not possible," I whispered. "My daughter died. She died 20 years ago." But even as I said the words, I was staring at this girl's face, at the dimple in her left cheek that matched mine, at the way her eyebrows arched just like my mother's, at the green eyes that were the exact shade of my own. "Can I come in?" Lily asked quietly. "I have documents. Birth certificates, adoption papers, medical records. I think you need to see them." I stepped aside and let her in. My hands were shaking. My mind was racing through possibilities, none of them making sense. There had to be a mistake, some kind of mix-up. But as she sat down on my couch and opened that manila envelope, spreading papers across my coffee table, I just knew. My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm 45 years old, and for 20 years I've mourned a daughter I thought had died. For 20 years I've carried guilt and grief that nearly destroyed me. For 20 years I've believed a lie my husband told me. And now that lie was sitting on my couch, very much alive, asking me to explain something I didn't understand myself. Let me back up. Let me tell you how this all started. I met Michael Walsh when I was 22 years old. He was 28, a successful real estate agent, charming and confident in a way that swept me off my feet. We got married after dating for just 6 months. Looking back, I can see all the red flags I missed. How he isolated me from my friends. How he made all the decisions about our life. How he controlled our finances. But at the time, I thought his behavior showed how much he cared about me. And we tried to get pregnant for 2 years with no success. Michael became obsessed with having a child. He wanted a son specifically. He talked about it constantly. He read books about how to conceive boys. He made me follow specific diets, take certain vitamins, even track my cycle down to the hour. The pressure was enormous. When I finally got pregnant in 2003, Michael was thrilled. He was convinced it would be a boy. He'd already picked out the name, Michael Jr. He painted the nursery blue. He bought baseball gloves and toy trucks. He planned our son's entire future before we even knew the gender. At the 20-week ultrasound, the technician told us we were having a girl. Michael's face went blank. He didn't say a word during the rest of the appointment. On the drive home, he was silent. When we got to the house, he went straight to the nursery and stared at the blue walls. "We can repaint," I said. "It's not a big deal." "I wanted a son," he said flatly. "We can try again after this baby is born," I offered, trying to make him feel better. "Maybe the next one will be a boy." He just nodded and walked away. For the rest of my pregnancy, Michael barely acknowledged the baby. He stopped coming to doctor's appointments. He stopped asking how I was feeling. It was like he decided this baby didn't count because she wasn't what he wanted. I tried to compensate by being excited enough for both of us. I bought pink clothes and stuffed animals. I read books about raising daughters. I picked out the name Sophia Rose. I told myself that once she was born, once Michael held her, he'd fall in love with her. My due date was March 10th, 2004. I went into labor on March 14th, around 10 p.m. Michael drove me to the hospital, but he seemed distant, distracted. He kept checking his phone, making calls in the hallway. I was too focused on the contractions to really notice. The labor was difficult. 36 hours of pain, exhaustion, Complications. At some point, they gave me medication that made everything fuzzy. I remember Michael talking to doctors. I remember someone saying there were problems. I remember screaming for my baby, asking if she was okay. And then I remember Michael's face above mine, tears running down his cheeks, his voice breaking as he said, "She didn't make it, Jenny. Our baby girl didn't make it. I'm so sorry." I remember screaming. I remember a nurse giving me something that made the room spin. I remember waking up in a different room, empty and alone, my body aching, my arms empty, my daughter gone. Michael told me they'd already taken her body away. He said it was hospital policy, that it would be too traumatic for me to see her. He said they'd handle all the arrangements, that I needed to focus on recovering. He brought me papers to sign, forms about cremation and death certificates, and I signed them all through a haze of grief and medication. We never had a funeral. Michael said it would be too painful. He said we should move forward, try again, have the son he'd always wanted. 2 weeks after I came home from the hospital, he'd already repainted the nursery white. He'd packed away all the baby things. He'd erased every trace of Sophia Rose like she'd never existed. I fell apart. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. I cried for hours every day. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, reaching for a baby that wasn't there. The grief was physical, a weight crushing my chest, making it hard to breathe. Michael had no patience for my mourning. He told me I needed to move on. He said I was being dramatic. He said plenty of women lose babies and they don't fall apart like I was doing. He made me feel like my grief was a personal failing, like I was weak for not being able to just get over it. 6 months after Sophia died, Michael told me he wanted a divorce. He said I'd changed, that I wasn't the woman he married, that he couldn't be with someone so negative and depressed. I was too broken to fight him. We divorced in 2005, a year after our daughter's death. I spent the next few years in therapy, working through the trauma and grief. I slowly rebuilt my life. I went back to school, got my degree in social work, started helping other women who'd been through pregnancy loss. I never remarried, never had other children. Sophia was my only baby, and losing her had been enough. And now, 20 years later, she was sitting on my couch, telling me she'd never died at all. "These are your medical records from St. Mary's Hospital," Lily said, sliding a paper toward me. "See, it says you gave birth to a healthy baby girl at 6:23 a.m. on March 15th, 2004. Weight 7 pounds 4 ounces, length 20 inches. APGAR scores 9 and 10, no complications." I stared at the document. It had my name on it, my patient ID number, but it said what Lily claimed. Healthy baby, no complications. "I don't understand," I said. "Michael told me she died. He showed me papers. I signed documents." "These are the adoption papers," Lily said, pulling out another stack. "They're signed by Michael Walsh. He surrendered parental rights 3 days after I was born. He told the adoption agency that you'd agreed to it, that you'd both decided you weren't ready for a child." "That's not true," I said, my voice getting louder. "I never agreed to give you up. I didn't even know you were alive. He told me you died." Lily's face was pale. "I've been searching for you for 2 years. Ever since I turned 18 and got access to my adoption records. When I found your name, I hired a private investigator to locate you. He found newspaper articles about your divorce from Michael Walsh. He found your social media, where you post every year on March 15th about the daughter you lost." She pulled out her phone and showed me my own Facebook post. 20 years worth of posts on the same date. 20 years ago today, I lost my baby girl. Thinking about Sophia Rose today. Missing my daughter who I never got to hold. "I saw these posts and I thought maybe you didn't know," Lily said. "Maybe he lied to you like he lied to the adoption agency." So I kept digging. I found the adoption lawyer who handled my case. He's retired now, but he remembered the adoption because it was unusual. He said Michael Walsh came in alone, said his wife was too distraught to participate, and pushed through the adoption in just 3 days. 3 days. In 3 days, while I was sedated and recovering and believing my baby was dead, Michael had given her away. "Why?" I asked. "Why would he do this?" "I don't know," Lily said, "but I think you should ask him." I haven't spoken to Michael in 15 years, I said. After the divorce, he moved away. I heard he remarried, had kids. I assumed he got the son he always wanted and forgot all about me. He has 3 sons, Lily said quietly. I looked him up too. Michael Jr., Jacob, and Matthew. He lives in Seattle now. 3 sons. He'd gotten exactly what he wanted, and all it cost him was lying to his wife about their daughter's death and giving that daughter away like she was nothing. I looked at Lily, really looked at her. She had my eyes, my dimple, my mother's eyebrows, but she also had features I didn't recognize. What about your father? I asked. My ex-husband, I mean. Do you know who your biological father was? Michael Walsh is listed as the father on my original birth certificate, Lily said. But when I did a DNA test through one of those ancestry websites, Michael Walsh didn't show up as a match. Neither did any of his relatives, but you did. You showed up as my mother with 99.9% certainty. The implication hit me like a truck. Michael wasn't your biological father. No, Lily said, which means he wasn't just giving away a daughter he didn't want. He was giving away a daughter who wasn't his. The room started spinning. I thought back to the timeline. I'd gotten pregnant in the summer of 2003. Michael and I were trying so hard to conceive. We were having sex on a schedule, tracking everything. There was no way, except there was one way. I closed my eyes and remembered something I'd completely blocked out. A night in June 2003. Michael had gotten drunk at a work party, really drunk. He'd passed out on the couch when we got home. I'd gone to bed alone, but I'd woken up to find him in bed with me. In the morning, he'd acted like nothing happened, and I'd assumed he'd just stumbled to bed in the middle of the night. But the timing was wrong. I'd conceived around that same time, which meant, oh my God, I whispered, I don't think Michael is your father because I don't think he and I actually, that night I thought we did. I think he told me we did, but we didn't. Lily leaned forward. What do you mean? There was one night, I said slowly, trying to piece together memories that had been suppressed for 20 years. I thought we'd been together, but I was half asleep. I don't actually remember it clearly, and the next morning Michael was acting strange. He was angry about something, but he wouldn't tell me what. So if he's not my biological father, Lily said, who is? I had no idea. I'd been faithful to Michael. I'd never even looked at another man during our marriage. The only explanation was that something had happened that night that I didn't remember, didn't consent to, something that had resulted in a pregnancy. I need to make a phone call, I said, standing up. I need to talk to someone who might know what happened. I went to my bedroom and called my old friend Sarah. We'd been close during my marriage to Michael, but we drifted apart after my divorce. She answered on the third ring. Jenny, is that you? Sarah, I need to ask you something about the night of Michael's work party in June 2003. Do you remember that night? There was a long pause. Why are you asking about that now? Please, Sarah. It's important. Do you remember anything unusual happening that night? Another pause, longer this time. Jenny, I felt guilty about that night for 20 years. I should have said something. I should have done something. But you were so happy about being pregnant, and then everything fell apart, and I didn't know how to bring it up. My blood ran cold. What happened, Sarah? Michael's co-worker, Ryan something, he was hitting on you all night, and you kept brushing him off because you were married. But then Michael got really drunk and passed out. Ryan offered to help you get Michael to the car. I saw you three leave together. I thought Ryan was just helping. But, I prompted, but the next day you didn't remember anything? You thought you'd just taken Michael home and gone to bed, and I wondered if something had happened that you didn't remember, but I didn't want to plant ideas in your head if nothing happened. And then you found out you were pregnant, and I told myself it must be Michael's, that I was imagining things. I felt sick. Do you remember Ryan's last name? Morrison, Sarah said. Ryan Morrison. He left the company a few months after that party. I don't know where he went. Morrison. Lily's adoptive last name was Morrison. But that could just be a coincidence. Lots of people have that last name. Jenny, did something happen? Sarah asked. Why are you asking about this now? I'll explain later, I said and hung up. I went back to the living room where Lily was waiting. Your adoptive parents, I said. What were their names? Ryan and Christine Morrison, Lily said. Why? The room tilted again. Ryan Morrison had been at that party. Ryan Morrison had offered to help me with Michael. Ryan Morrison had been alone with me when I was vulnerable and unable to consent. And Ryan Morrison had ended up adopting the baby I conceived that night. I think your adoptive father is your biological father, I said quietly. I think he assaulted me at a party when I was trying to take care of my drunk husband. I think he got me pregnant. And I think he and Michael worked together to cover it up. Lily's face went white. No, that can't be right. My dad is a good person. He wouldn't do that. Tell me about how your adoption happened, I said. Did your parents ever tell you the story? Lily hesitated, then nodded. They said they'd been trying to have kids for years, but couldn't. Then my dad came home one day and said he'd found out about a private adoption through someone at work. He said there was a baby being born soon, and the parents couldn't keep her, and if my parents acted fast, they could adopt her. My mom was so happy. They'd been on adoption waiting lists for years with no luck. And your dad never explained how he knew about this adoption opportunity? He just said it was through work, Lily said. Her voice was shaking now. But his work was at the same company where your ex-husband worked. They were co-workers. Everything clicked into place. Ryan Morrison had assaulted me. I'd gotten pregnant. When Michael found out the baby wasn't his, he'd been furious. But instead of admitting his wife had been assaulted instead of going to the police, he'd made a deal with Ryan. Ryan would take the baby. Michael would tell me the baby died. Everyone would get what they wanted, except me. I didn't get anything except 20 years of grief and trauma. I need to see proof, Lily said. I need to know for sure. Can we do a DNA test, you and me, to confirm you're really my mother? Yes, I said, absolutely. We ordered a DNA kit online and paid for expedited processing. While we waited for it to arrive, Lily stayed at a hotel nearby. We met for coffee every day, getting to know each other, carefully building a relationship while trying not to get too attached in case the DNA test somehow proved we were wrong. But we weren't wrong. The test came back with 99.9% probability that I was her biological mother. Sitting across from each other at a coffee shop, looking at those results on my phone, we both started crying. I was crying because I'd found the daughter I thought I'd lost. She was crying because she'd found the mother who'd never stopped grieving for her. I'm so sorry, I said. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you. I'm so sorry I didn't fight harder to find out what happened. If I'd known you were alive, I never would have stopped looking for you. It's not your fault, Lily said. You didn't know. They lied to you. I should have demanded to see your body, I said. I should have questioned Michael's story. I should have done something. You were grieving and traumatized and drugged, Lily said firmly. You trusted your husband to tell you the truth. This isn't on you. But it felt like it was on me. It felt like I'd failed my daughter before she was even born. Over the next few weeks, Lily told me about her life. Ryan and Christine Morrison had been good parents, she said. They'd loved her, raised her well, given her everything she needed. Christine had died of cancer when Lily was 16, which had been devastating. After that, it was just her and Ryan, and their relationship had been complicated. He'd been distant, distracted, like he was carrying some heavy secret. Now we knew what that secret was. I need to confront them, I said, Michael and Ryan. I need to hear them admit what they did. I'll come with you, Lily said, and you don't have to. This isn't your burden. Yes, it is, she said. I'm the reason this all happened. If I hadn't been conceived, if I hadn't existed, none of this would have happened to you. Don't say that, I said sharply. None of this is your fault. You're the victim here just as much as I am. You deserve to know your biological mother. I deserve to know my daughter was alive. We both got robbed of 20 years we should have had together. We hired a lawyer to look into the legality of what Michael and Ryan had done. The lawyer said it was complicated. The adoption might have been legal if Michael had legal rights to surrender, even though he'd lied to me. But the assault, if we could prove it, was definitely a crime. The statute of limitation had run out for criminal prosecution, but we might be able to pursue civil charges. I didn't care about money, I cared about the truth. We tracked down Michael first. He was living in a big house in Seattle with his wife and 3 sons. I called him out of nowhere on a Saturday morning. "Michael Walsh?" I said when he answered. There was a pause. "Jenny, is that you?" "It's Jennifer," I corrected. "I haven't been Jenny in a long time." "What do you want? I haven't heard from you in 15 years." "I want to talk about our daughter." Silence. "The daughter you told me died," I continued. "The daughter you actually gave up for adoption without telling me. The daughter who showed up on my doorstep 3 weeks ago very much alive." More silence, then, "I don't know what you're talking about." "Her name is Lily," I said. "She's 20 years old. She has my eyes and my dimple, and according to DNA tests, she's my daughter. The daughter you told me was dead." "Jenny, I can explain." "Don't call me that," I snapped. "And you're going to explain. In person. I'm in Seattle. I want to meet with you tomorrow. Just you and me. No lawyers, no police, just the two of us. You owe me that much." He agreed to meet at a coffee shop the next morning. I went alone, even though Lily wanted to come. This was between me and Michael. He looked older, grayer, heavier. He sat across from me with his hands wrapped around a coffee cup, not making eye contact. "Why?" I asked. "That's all I want to know. Why did you lie to me?" He was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "Because she wasn't mine." "I know that," I said. "I know Ryan Morrison is her biological father. What I don't know is why you decided to tell me she was dead instead of telling me the truth." "The truth?" Michael laughed bitterly. "The truth was that my wife got pregnant by another man. The truth was that I'd spent 2 years desperate for a child, and then when I finally got one, she wasn't mine. The truth was humiliating." "So you lied to me about my baby dying?" I said, my voice rising. "You let me grieve for 20 years. You let me think I'd lost my daughter when she was alive the whole time?" "I didn't know what else to do," Michael said. "Ryan called me the day after that party. He told me what happened. He said he'd been drunk, you'd been vulnerable, things had gotten out of hand. He was freaking out, begging me not to tell anyone, and I was so angry. At him, at you, at the whole situation. At ME? I said, I was assaulted, Michael. I was unconscious or close to it. I couldn't consent. And you were angry at me?" "I know," he said quietly. "I know that now. But at the time, I was just so hurt and angry, and I wasn't thinking straight. When you got pregnant, I convinced myself the baby might still be mine. The timing was close enough. But then you had amniocentesis done for genetic testing, and I sneaked a look at the results. The blood type didn't match. I knew then that the baby wasn't mine. So you decided to give her away." "Ryan offered to take her," Michael said. "He and his wife couldn't have kids. He said it would solve everyone's problems. You'd never have to know what happened at that party. I'd never have to raise another man's child. He'd get the baby he'd always wanted. It seemed like the best solution." "The best solution would have been telling me the truth," I said. "You were so excited about the baby," Michael said. "You'd already named her, decorated the nursery, bought all those tiny clothes. How was I supposed to tell you she wasn't mine? How was I supposed to explain that something had happened that you didn't remember? So instead, you let me believe she was dead." "I thought it would be easier," Michael said. "I thought you'd grieve and move on, and we could try again for a baby that was actually mine. I didn't know you'd fall apart like you did. I didn't know it would destroy you." "You didn't care," I corrected. "You only cared about yourself, about your embarrassment, about your precious ego." He didn't argue. "Does your wife know?" I asked. "Do your sons know what you did?" He shook his head. "Nobody knows. Ryan and I swore we'd never tell anyone." "Well, now people are going to know," I said, "because I'm not keeping your secret anymore. You stole 20 years from me. 20 years I could have had with my daughter, and you're going to have to live with everyone knowing what kind of person you are." I stood up to leave. Michael grabbed my arm. "Jenny, please. My sons. They don't need to know about this. It would destroy them. It would destroy my marriage. Please." I yanked my arm away. "You should have thought about that 20 years ago." I walked out and didn't look back. Next, we tracked down Ryan Morrison. He still lived in Chicago, in a small apartment on the north side. Lily insisted on coming with me this time. She wanted to confront the man she'd thought was her father, the man who was actually her biological father, the man who'd assaulted her mother. We knocked on his door on a Tuesday evening. He opened it, saw Lily, and his face went pale. Lily, what are you doing here? We need to talk, Lily said. Can we come in? He stepped aside and we entered a depressing apartment that smelled like cigarettes and regret. He'd aged badly since Christine died. He looked sick, thin, haunted. Dad, Lily said, and the word sounded like an accusation. This is Jennifer Walsh, my biological mother. Ryan stared at me. Oh, God. You remember me? I said. It wasn't a question. He nodded slowly. I remember. Tell me what happened, I said. That night at the party. I want to hear you say it. He sat down heavily on his couch. I was drunk. You were trying to get Michael to the car. I offered to help. Michael passed out in the back seat. You were dizzy, disoriented. I drove to your house. I helped you get Michael inside, and then... And then? I prompted. And then I did something unforgivable, he said quietly. You were barely conscious. I took advantage. I told myself it was okay because you weren't saying no. But you weren't saying yes either. You couldn't. And I knew that. I knew it, and I did it anyway. Lily made a small sound of disgust. The next day, I was horrified at what I'd done, Ryan continued. I called Michael to confess, to apologize. He was furious. We agreed never to speak of it again. But then you got pregnant, and Michael called me. He said the baby wasn't his. He said he couldn't raise another man's child. He asked if I wanted her. And you said yes, I said. Christine and I had been trying for so long, Ryan said. We'd been on waiting lists for adoption for years. Here was a chance to have a child, my child. I told myself I was doing you a favor. Michael said you were too young, too unstable, that you wouldn't be a good mother. He made it sound like we were rescuing the baby from a bad situation. You knew that wasn't true, Lily said. Her voice was shaking. You knew he was lying to her. You knew she thought I was dead. And you said nothing. I'm sorry, Ryan said. I know sorry isn't enough. I know I can never make this right. But I did love you, Lily. You were my daughter. I raised you. I tried to be a good father. A good father wouldn't have assaulted my mother, Lily said. A good father wouldn't have stolen me from her. A good father wouldn't have built his entire family on a lie. Ryan had no answer to that. We left his apartment and sat in my car for a long time, both of us crying. Lily had lost a father she'd thought she knew. I'd gotten confirmation of something I'd suspected, but hoped wasn't true. We were both grieving, both trying to process the enormity of what had been done to us. What do we do now? Lily asked finally. We move forward, I said. We build a relationship. We don't let them take any more of our time. And that's what we did. Lily moved to my city. We started having weekly dinners, getting to know each other, building the mother-daughter relationship we should have had from the start. It was awkward at first. 20 years is a long time. We were essentially strangers who happened to share DNA. But slowly, carefully, we found our rhythm. We discovered we both loved old movies and terrible reality TV. We both hated mushrooms and loved Thai food. We both bit our nails when we were nervous and talked too fast when we were excited. I told her stories about my pregnancy, about how I'd talked to her every day, how I'd played music for her, how I'd loved her before I even met her. She told me about her childhood, about Christine and how kind she'd been, about the hole that had been left when she died. We talked about Ryan and how complicated it was to feel betrayed by him, while also mourning the father she'd thought she knew. We talked about Michael and how anger was easier than grief. We talked about all the birthdays and holidays and moments we'd missed. And we made new memories. Her 21st birthday was the first birthday we spent together. I threw her a party and invited all my friends, and she cried when I gave her a photo album with pictures from my pregnancy, pictures I'd kept all these years because I couldn't bear to throw them away. We took a DNA test through one of those ancestry websites and found other relatives. My second cousin reached out, shocked to learn I had a daughter I thought had died. Through her, we connected with more of my extended family. Lily met grandparents and aunts and uncles she never knew existed. 6 months after Lily first knocked on my door, we decided to go public with our story. We did an interview with a local news station about adoption fraud and how Michael and Ryan had conspired to steal my daughter. The story went viral. Suddenly, everyone was talking about us. Michael's wife called me, crying, saying she had no idea. His sons called Lily, angry and confused, demanding to know if this was real. Michael lost his real estate license. His marriage ended. He lost everything, just like I'd lost everything 20 years ago. Ryan got sicker. The guilt, combined with his existing health problems, took its toll. Lily visited him once more before he died. She said she forgave him because holding onto the anger was only hurting her. But she also told him she could never forget what he'd done. I never forgave Michael. Some betrayals are too big for forgiveness. Through all of this, Lily and I grew closer. She started calling me Mom. The first time she said it, we both cried. She'd had a mom who raised her, and I'd never tried to replace Christine. But I was her mom too, the one who'd carried her and loved her and grieved her for 20 years. 2 years after that knock on my door, Lily graduated from college. I was there in the audience, crying proud tears as she walked across that stage. After the ceremony, she found me in the crowd and hugged me tight. "Thank you for finding me," she said. "You found me," I corrected. "You're the one who searched. You're the one who was brave enough to knock on my door." "We found each other," she said. "That's what matters." She was right. After 20 years of grieving a daughter I thought was dead, after 20 years of carrying guilt and trauma, after 20 years of believing the lie I'd been told, I had my daughter back. Not in the way I'd imagined, not without scars and complications and 1,000 what ifs, but back nonetheless. People ask me sometimes if I wish I'd known earlier, if I wish someone had told me the truth 20 years ago instead of letting me grieve for 2 decades. The answer is complicated. Yes, I wish I'd had those 20 years with Lily. I wish I'd been there for her first words, her first steps, her first day of school. I wish I'd been the one to teach her to ride a bike and braid her hair and navigate her teenage years. But I also know that Christine loved her and raised her well. Lily had a good childhood, a happy childhood. If I'd gotten her back as an infant, Michael would still have been in the picture. We'd probably still have been married. And I don't think I could have protected her from his resentment and anger. Maybe things happened the way they needed to happen. Maybe Lily needed to grow up strong and independent so she could be the one to find me. Maybe I needed to survive those 20 years of grief so I could appreciate the gift of having her back in my life. Or maybe I'm just trying to make sense of something senseless. What I know for sure is this: my daughter didn't die. She never died. She was stolen from me by 2 men who put their own wants and needs above everything else. They let me grieve and suffer and nearly destroy myself, all to avoid the consequences of their actions. But they didn't win. Because Lily found me. Because we found each other. Because the truth, no matter how long it takes, always comes out eventually. I have my daughter now. We have coffee every Sunday morning. She comes to my house for holidays. She calls me when she has a bad day or good news to share. She's talking about going to graduate school, and I'll be there cheering her on. She's dating someone nice, and I got to meet them and embarrass her with baby stories. We have a second chance. Not many people get that. Most mothers who lose their children have to learn to live with that loss forever. I got mine back. Every year on March 15th, I still post on Facebook. But now, instead of mourning a daughter I lost, I celebrate the daughter I found. The daughter who knocked on my door and changed everything. The daughter who was brave enough to search for the truth. He told me our baby didn't survive. For 20 years, I believed that lie. But my baby did survive. She survived and grew up and found her way back to me. And now we're building the relationship we should have had from the beginning. One coffee date and phone call and Sunday dinner at a time. It's not the story I wanted. It's not the happy ending I imagined when I was pregnant and picking out names and decorating a nursery. But it's the story we have, and we're making the most of it. And my daughter's alive. After 20 years of grief and lies and loss, my daughter's alive. And that's the only ending that matters.